Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to the Born Primitive Outdoor podcast. And I have got Derek Wolfe on the mic with me today. Derek, are you staying out of trouble?
Always, dude. I have to.
Yeah, you do. Big win for Colorado on Proposition 127 recently. I know you had a huge part of that.
Oh, it was a huge win. And I was worried about it too, because I mean, the misinformation, like the news here, the local news here in Colorado was just, I mean, constantly just like showing old footage of people hunting and killing mountain lions, and they weren't talking about any of the science behind it at all. So I was really worried. But you know, a lot of people were asking me questions, like just out on the streets. Like if I go to like a restaurant, someone's like, "Hey, what's this 127 thing?" And I would explain it to them. And really, that's what you have to do. You have to get out in your local areas where they're going to be voting on this shit and inform people. And that's what we did, man. We did a great job. Dan Gates was the lead on this, and he did a great job. So any kind of praise that we can give him, we got to keep giving it to him, because he's going to have to. The next fight's going to be bears. They're trying to get bears. They're trying to completely take bears off the list, so we can't hunt them at all.
Yeah, which is crazy, because there's bears are already a problem. I mean, bears are a big problem in Colorado.
Yeah, and they're hard to kill because you can't bait them.
Yep, they are. No dogs, no bait down there. So, yeah, it's an uphill battle, but that was a good one. That was a good victory.
Huge win.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I like Colorado has gone steadily downhill. So that's like really the first big victory for in a long time, if ever, really. I mean, that was like the first win that I would consider a big win in Colorado. So yeah, it was a big one. But
yeah, well, we had two pretty good ones this year, because we had the first one was the over-the-counter non-resident elk tags for archery season.
Yeah, they're
going to limit those and make it so that you have to draw the out-of-staters have to draw them. So that's going to make elk hunting a little bit better for residents. It's going to take a long time before it becomes as good as, a place like Wyoming. Like Wyoming's general tag is phenomenal, for in-state guys. And same with Montana. So it's going to take a while for that to happen. But, we're on the right track. So we got 2 wins this year with the elk tags, and because they were going to just get rid of over-the-counter tags altogether. That was what their answer was, to stop the fighting and arguing over it. So the fact that we won that is huge. And then, obviously, we have to we're on the defense all the time. So, my wife and I have a plan here. We're going to, Florida just made it a constitutional right. Hunting and fishing is a constitutional right now. So I think that's kind of the move we're going to have to do in Colorado, because we can't keep it like, how are we supposed to enjoy our life if we're constantly in litigation with these anti-hunters nonstop? Like, we just gotta make it, look, dude, you can't take our hunting rights away from us. We're going to trust the science and do it the scientific way, because it works and it's proven to work. So that's really what we have to do. We have to make it a constitutional right.
Yeah. That's a fact. And I mean, it's an uphill battle, but there's hopefully some light at the end of the tunnel. But what else has been going on?
Oh, nothing, man. I just, I have my podcast going, the Wolfe and Tame podcast, and, we're growing that. Then on my YouTube channel, the Wolfe and Tame YouTube channel is growing, just slowly but surely. And then, I got skunked in September, but we had an awesome August. You and I went up to British Columbia, and that was just incredible. It happened really quick and really fast, but would have loved for that to. The time that we spent up there, man, was just incredible. It's a magical place. And I'm glad that you suggested that, because originally we were going to go to the Yukon, and you were like, dude, we have to go up here. And I was like, all right, let's go. And I'm glad we did. But other than that, man, I just killed a nice buck in Kansas with my bow. And then I have in January, I'm going to go down to Arizona for a mule deer hunt with my bow and over the counter, and see if I can't make that happen.
That'll be good.
But yeah, man, other than that, that's pretty much all I got going on. Just hanging out and dad life and husband and just chilling.
Yeah. Well, we haven't, let's talk about the mountain goat hunt. We haven't done a podcast on that yet. So I get, good chit chat about it a little bit. Was that what you thought it was going to be, like what what did you walk away from that hunt with, and just, I guess, just talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I had expectations. My expectations were that, we were gonna be hiking our ass off. And that was, I knew it was gonna be an adventure, like a true adventure. And and it was. You have to fly up to Vancouver, from Vancouver up to Smithers, and then from Smithers you jump on a little otter and fly into camp, and then from camp you take another 2-hour flight on a Super Cub and get dropped off, and then you got to hike 14 miles. And where there's no people are like, oh, did you take horses? I'm like, you can't get horses up there.
Yeah,
no, we hiked. We hiked, and then we got up there, and it was such an amazing experience for me, because it's just stuff that most people don't ever get to experience. The places that we were at, a lot of humans have never even really been there.
Yeah,
because it's just so remote. We were 300 miles from a road.
Yeah, probably maybe more than that. Yeah, a long ways, like a very long ways from a road or power, or anything. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's super remote, and I didn't know what to expect as far as like. I knew the terrain was gonna suck once we got like above tree line, just because the rocks just they suck. But it was actually it was a little easier than I thought, because I've been training in the altitude. So whenever you're not in the altitude, it's like you're taking full breaths and it's great, but I wouldn't suggest going up on and doing those hunts unless you're in shape. Like, you better train for it and get your ankles right and get your knee stability right, because there was a lot of rolling rocks and a lot of steep stuff that, especially on the pack out. Aaron, I thought with that initial descent that we made,
yeah,
when we started going down, I was like, what does he do? Where is he going? Why is he going down this?
Yeah. No, I remember. Because we hit that lake, and then, because then we hit those big grizzly tracks. Once it kind of started to calm down, once we got kind of just into the tree line, we hit that, well, I guess it was a pond or a big lake or a small lake, whatever. And then there was the grizzly tracks. So, I mean, that area I took you to, I think it's like kind of 9.5 to like where you're kind of, starting to hunt. Or some, I can't remember. Like, it's a long damn ways in.
It was 10 miles to the base of that mountain where we went up.
Yeah, that sounds about, right. Which is pretty damn far, actually, to go for a goat. And then the terrain once you're up there is not as bad as, well, I say that where you killed yours, it's bad back there, but it's it's not. When I say like, oh my God, like just these crazy straight off cliffs. So it's bow huntable, I guess. But where you killed yours, you saw it just a couple 100 yards from where you killed yours is unattainable, cliffs. So, that area is kind of unique just because, the distance to get there, but it is bow huntable. I mean, that's why we went back there,
Yeah.
But it's just so fucking far. Like, on the way back out, that the hike back out sucked. I mean, it did, and we didn't get too jacked up in like brush and stuff. We were able to fairly. I didn't. I guess I'm saying is I didn't screw up too bad coming out, but it is a long damn ways coming out.
Yeah, it just keeps going and going. It's like and you have no point of reference once you get into those trees.
Yeah,
so it's just like, well, we're just going. We're just gonna keep going until we hit like our exit camp. It was but wild. Man, it was the hunt itself. It was cool because we get there. I think it was 14 miles. We did 14 miles in to where we slept, right? Where we slept or 10 miles or something. Then we slept. And then we had that giant nanny above us. And I was like, dude, if that nanny didn't have kids with her, I would whack her because she was huge.
Yeah, that was, I think that's probably the biggest nanny, I had ever seen. I mean, I don't know, maybe 12-inch, horns. And what was crazy is like, so, up there, the goats go in the trees a lot. So we had just broke in to that, like that alpine, right? We were just getting to tree line. And so we camped like literally basically at the last tree, basically. And those guys, and I can't remember if I spotted them or you did, but they were right behind the tent, like 80 yards walking up. And then remember I went over to take a shit and you could see where they actually were trying, like 30 yards behind our tent. They were digging where they were gonna bed, and they probably heard us. And
Yeah,
then
they were going to bed right there, and we boogered them out of there.
yeah, and then she ended up bedded like like what, I don't know what, I don't know if I ranged 120 yards from camp.
It was less than that, dude. It was like 80 yards from us.
Yeah, it was close.
It was right on top of the hill. Like she was right there, just staring at us the whole night.
Yeah, and I'm sure she never seen a human before, or whatever. And then because I was like, where we camped, we were trying to decide, do we want to day hunt the next day or move camp in, and I had been in there to part of that once before, and I think that next morning I'd made kind of a decision. I'm like, man, it's just too far. We should take camp, and we ended up camping the second night and even a cooler. I like that spot even better, but again, it's just it is far to get in there.
It is. It's really far. I mean, because what did we go 4 miles for the next camp? It was something like that.
Something. It was far. I mean, it took a while. Like it wasn't like because you're climbing the whole freaking way.
Yeah, it's nonstop. That side hill. Remember that side hill we had to do?
Yeah,
that sucked.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was so far. It was like a 2.5 mile side hill. I was like, this is I can't believe how long this is taking. But we all were in shape. We got Lane was running camera. Lane Walter was running camera, and he's a firefighter, so obviously he's always in shape. And he didn't have any problems. But I mean, there's a couple times I felt bad for him because he was carrying a camera and using one trekking pole. And I was like, dude, just put the camera away.
Yeah.
So that you can use both of your trekking poles, because this is getting kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Man, it was intense. But then we get over there and we camp. That place, but you're right, that place we did camp was phenomenal. And the experience is back there. So it's like, all our water, we had to use a UV light and the tablets and stuff like that. And we just like that, you have to clean all your water, but some of that stuff you didn't have to even really clean.
I was gonna say, where we were getting water, you definitely had to, but most of the spots, I say most, like creeks from up there, you don't have to. The problem we had is water is fairly sparse in I mean, a couple of those spots, that water was kind of fucked. Like it was, like not stagnant, but definitely working on it, especially that last spot when we were coming out. Because I actually went to call Amy, and I accidentally called your wife because you'd used my sat phone last, because we were just laying there just chugging water, trying to recuperate basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And you called my wife accidentally.
Yeah. It was funny because I heard your kid and I'm like, oh, that's not Amy. Shit.
Yeah. She was like, oh, so you killed one? I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's funny. You did good though. I was talking I did a podcast with Luke, and for your big ass, you did better than I thought you would, because that's just a lot of body to move around. You know what I mean? In that kind of terrain. And you never had any, not that I remember anyway, you never had any issues or, you know what I mean? No. It didn't look like you were ever really like sucking. I mean, on the pack out you were, but we were all sucking on the pack out. But I mean, you never really were like, fuck this. You did fine the whole time.
Yeah, I felt good the whole time. And like I said, dude, I trained for it. Like I was in shape because I trained for that elk hunting in September. So like I don't ever want to go out there and feel like I'm going to die, like as far as my conditioning goes.
Yeah.
Because that sucks. That makes it, that's like takes all the fun out of it whenever, that's the one thing you can't control is what kind of shape you're in. You can't control the weather. You can't control the animals. You can't control any of that shit, but you can control your level of fitness. And it doesn't take a lot. You could just do fucking lunges every day and your legs will be ready for that.
Yep.
Because you're not at altitude, but I'm training at 10,000 feet and hiking my ass off all the time. So I was good, but man, talk about like the way the hunt went down. Like when we actually spotted the goat, and he was fucking, it seemed like he was so far. I was like, I don't know, dude, we can try. We were kind of like, he's kind of far. We might not make it over there. Well, we make it all the way over there and he's still there, just hanging out in the middle of nothing. Just remember, in a perfect spot.
I had told you, I said, this is a long strip of grass and there should not be any goats in there. We can just walk this before we'd seen it. And then,
Yeah.
of course, there's a fucking goat right where I just told you there probably wouldn't be a goat. And there, so, yeah.
Well, then not only did you say there's a goat, but you said it's one of the biggest goats I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So now I'm all fucking jazzed up about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say when we were on top of that goat, like when we got to, because it actually worked. I mean, about as good as you could get, because like it was in the middle of like 5 football fields. I mean, right in the middle, and we got above it. It was laying there, and it got up. I think what it was like 380 when we got above it, maybe, or 300 and something.
Like 300 yards.
Yeah,
300
yes.
plus.
We kind of low crawled up, took a look at it, and then when it got up, we kind of had to haul mail because I had a fairly decent idea of where it was going to get in the cliff. So we kind of had to haul ass over. And I've got a video of you I've never posted where the goat's coming and I video the goat and then pan over to you and you got just a huge shit-eating grin on your face. I think the goat was at about 100 at that time.
90 yards.
Yeah.
He was at 90 because you were like, 90 yards. You kept giving me the fucking distances and I was like, fuck, he's coming. I mean, here's the lesson that I learned on that though. I should have fucking waited he was going to feed the 40 yards right next to me.
Yeah, he could have.
He was coming right towards us.
I had people ask me about, that, and there was kind of 2 tracks he could take. And honestly, if he took the one track, he would have started going farther away. And if he took the other, he may have ended up less than 40. Well, he could have anyway. And, that's kind of a gamble of like, okay, when you took the shot, you always look back. I mean, I do anyway. You always look back of like, should I waited? Should I have shot or whatever? Because, I've been in that position before where, you've got an animal broadside between 50 and 80 and you're like, okay, should I shoot? Should I shoot? No, it'll get closer. And then the wind swirls or something happens or he just fucks off a different direction. And then you're like, I should have shot. And you're looking at it a different way. Yeah, so it's always something, like for me, I felt comfortable for you shooting right there, but it could have got a lot closer, 100%. So
he would have been, he could have, and it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been that angle downhill because it was a downhill angle. It wasn't like a severe downhill angle, but it was enough for me to, when I released my arrow. And here's where I wish I would have had a fixed blade on the tip of my arrow, because I do think that when I shot, he just started turning and quartering to me a little bit, remember?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck. But I just was like, I was committed to the shot. So I knew if I let down, it was going to make a bunch of noise and probably would have boogered him off. So I was like, this is like, I'm already at full draw. I have to shoot now. And he was 67 yards. And so I released the arrow and all I see is an arrow bounce off of its back.
Which I thought the same thing you did, but that is not where you hit it. I just looked like it.
No. I hit him. It went into it. It hit him in the ear, hit him in the neck, and then it bounced off his back.
Yeah. Well, it looked like it. I think it went straight behind him, so it looked like it bounced off his back. And honestly, you might be right. I can't remember exactly, because the goats never duck, ever. And that goat definitely...
No, his ear. He just turned his head and his ear was in the way. That's it.
Yep.
And they have anybody that's seen a mountain goat, they got long ass, tall ears. Their ears are real tall and they fucking move around like antennas.
Well, and so what's crazy with this, right, is like when you hit it, we didn't know you hit it, right? Like I had no idea you hit it. And so, when we go over in the cliffs, right, we walk over, because I think I'd even said to you guys, let's chill for a minute. He's going to go bed in those cliffs. We'll kill him in the cliffs. And so I go peek over and he's bedded at like 40 bleeding. And I'm like, fuck, you hit him. Like he's hit. And so, when I looked back and you're coming up and he's kind of walking off. And so, I wanted you to, like, I did not want to lose this thing in the cliffs, and I have had that happen. And so I'm kind of a dick about that, meaning like Derek flings some barrels at it. We might have to put a bullet in it, whatever. And so like, when you had shot at it, I'm like, okay, you didn't, when you shot at it, you hit it with, or you shot at it once with the rifle and you didn't hit it. And I'm like, fuck, I think he's fucking going to die. Cause he was kind of wobbly. Right. And so, and you did not hit it with the fucking bullet. I was like, I was probably rushing you a little bit on the shot. And so I'm like, Man, I think he's gonna fucking fall over now. It was weird how all of that happened. Anyway, go ahead. You can
It
take it
blew
from
my
there.
mind.
Yeah.
It blew my fucking mind. I was like, hold on a minute. I was like, I know I didn't hit his ass with a bullet.
No,
Like,
you were
there's
three
no,
feet to
I
the
know
right
I
or
did.
2 feet because I was
Yeah, I
rushing the
was
shit out
fucking
of you.
way off.
Yeah. Well, I was like,
Yeah,
shoot,
I was like,
shoot, shoot.
shoot him now, shoot him now. I was like, oh, fuck. Fucking
Yeah.
out there jerking the trigger. I was all fucking jazzed. Well, when I was walking up to you, remember, I had strapped my bow back onto my pack because I thought, I don't know anything about goats, but I just assumed that I just fucking nicked him with an arrow and hit him in the back. So he's probably going to be fucking gone. And he's going to like dip all the way to the bottom of it, like where I'm going to have a while before I get a chance to shoot him again.
Well,
And I look up and there you are. I'm fucking feeling sorry for myself. And there you are, like, he's fucking right here.
and
like,
I should have done a better job because those goats, when they go to where they're safe. Now, sometimes they will, fuck off for a long ways, but generally they're going to go in the cliff and just where they're in regroup and just hang out there, especially the ones that have never seen a human before. I just said, hey, he's probably going to get in these cliffs. We'll find him again. So I should have said, stay on my ass. We'll probably kill him here because I crept up super slow and he was right there. I mean, he was bedded. Like when I first saw him, he had laid back down. And
that would have been perfect.
And I did not expect that, honestly. Like I didn't think he would have went that short of, of a distance. But obviously, whatever. We ended up getting it done. So, I mean, what was weird, so like Ron and I went back and forth on the age of that goat, and I said, I think it's 9 or 11, and Ron said 4 or 5, and I think they ended up aging it at 8. So.
Yeah. It was hard because those rings don't really like.
At the base of it, the rings at the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, you can't, I mean, it's so hard to tell. Whatever, it was a mature goat.
Well, it's a big goat too. I mean, and that goat, like not taking anything, like I don't, if that goat did make it to 12, I don't know how big it would have been because it's big. I mean, it's a big ass goat. And, we were, looking at like, just like learning or whatever, like talking to different guys. Cause I was talking to Bart about your goat, and Bart's been on a lot of goat hunts. And, Bart was like, yeah, 100%. I said, how old do you think it is? He's like, oh, it's old as shit. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it fooled me. It wasn't old as shit. It's old. It's mature. But I was like, it wasn't, and Bart talked about that. He's like, sometimes, dude, you just get like guys like you as a human or Andre the Giant or Pickett, right? Like they're just bigger because that thing's body was enormous too.
He was huge.
Yeah. Yeah, he's big.
I couldn't believe how big his body. I mean, they're so much bigger than the Colorado ones.
Yeah. I mean, a 300 to 400 pound goat is fairly normal. I say normal, it's not abnormal up there where they're quite a bit smaller in Colorado. But I mean, it was cool. We got done early enough where we didn't have to hike like in the pitch black, and we weren't really there was no like, other than it was just kicking the shit out of us to get back to camp. It was fairly calm in the sense we could have a good time and like go at a fairly decent, like average pace, and there was no bad weather. So I mean, you couldn't have really drawn it any better because, we didn't have to deal with, pissing rain or snow or whatever. So that was cool because that always, I mean, you're always going to have fun, but that kind of, I'm not a big fan of the rain is what I'm getting at.
Well, yeah, the rain. That's what I was worried about I was like, is it going to fucking rain the whole time we're here? And it didn't even sprinkle. I mean, the weather was perfect.
No,
the weather, it was absolutely, it wasn't too hot. It wasn't like, it got down into the 30s at night, but other than that, man, it was fucking perfect.
No, it was good. I think too, like obviously we got back to, our spike camp, which I don't know. Yeah, I mean that's 3 or 4 miles. I guess back to our tent, and then from there, yeah, it was 10, I guess, or 9.5, or 10. 10
it was
from
10.
Yeah, and
yeah, 10 from where we slept.
Yeah. To the little pond we got dropped off on, and then we got back, and then we were only there we weren't there too damn long. I mean, we all jumped in, got cleaned off into the lake or the pond, and it was a cool trip. I mean, that spot is really, I mean, it's a beautiful area. But when we had went in, I had told you my initial plan was to go a different way, right? That no one had ever been. And I don't know if you remember when we were looking at it, I was like, Yeah, I'm glad that looks horrible. I am glad we
It
did
looked
not go.
awful.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we didn't go that way because it looked fucking awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
No,
like,
it did.
fucking dude, we made the right choice.
That side perspective, because I'm looking at it from a fucking airplane, right? Flying, everything looks easy from the airplane. So I'm like, that's doable. We can make it. And then when we kind of paralleled it or teed off on it, looking across, I was like, holy shit, that's way worse than I thought. From the plane and even the map. Just looking at it with my eyes. Not saying we couldn't have done it. It would have sucked. That's for damn sure.
Oh yeah, we could have done it, dude, but it would have been miserable. Like it really would have sucked because we would have had to. It would have been a lot of climbing right there. We would have climbed.
Yeah, and I mean when you
Like,
say climb, fucking climb, like actual
climb.
Yeah,
yeah, like we probably should have fucking ropes and shit. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yep. That's definitely that's a fact. So no, it was a good trip, and I mean like obviously I ended up I had several hunts after that. So by the time I got back, I hadn't talked to you. We texted a few different times. I got back for I think I was back 2 days and then went with Mike, on his goat hunt. So, I hadn't actually got a chance to hunt that much this season just because, and then I went on that Born Primitive skydive hunt. But, had been paying attention with what, you had going on and, it looks like it's been cool. Like you just shot, a whitetail, but I guess kind of go into some of the hunts, a little more detail that you went on after the goat hunt.
Yeah. So we hit September, right. And I did a mule deer hunt down in, down by like Grand Junction area. So it was really in Rifle. So that area, that was with Bo Nickel. So we had a group of 5 bucks that were just, there was there was 5 good bucks that were all just hanging out together. And we couldn't find them. So it took us 3 days to find them. And then we finally found them. And then they were all together. They get in those bachelor groups when they're still in velvet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And Bo's got a fight actually this weekend. But so he was like, he couldn't stay for long. So I was like, Bo, go ahead. You go put a stock on and see if you can make it happen when we finally found him. And he did. And he just couldn't get close. The wind was perfect and everything. He just couldn't get close enough to take a shot. So he boogered those bucks out of there. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go try to make a stalk now. So I took my boots off and stalked into 37 yards on all 5 of these bucks. And they were kind of bedded in right behind this cedar tree. And there was just a tiny hole for me to shoot through. And I decided not to do it. Cause Levi was behind me. Like, I wouldn't do it, dude. Don't shoot through that. And I was like, I can do it. His vitals were like right there, perfect at 37 yards. And I'm glad I didn't. Cause after they kind of, after they kind of got up and left and, I didn't want to like spook them too bad. Cause I thought there might be another chance to hunt them again, but we never saw them again. But after I got up there and looked at that tree, there was a branch like right in the middle of that hole that my arrow would have 1000% hit. And I would have probably wounded that deer, never found him, who knows what, or I missed or completely missed him. So I'm glad I didn't take the shot, but man, it was fun to get those mule deer stalks in your socks and stuff. And you're trying to be every little sound is just like, it seems the closer you get, the quieter the wind gets, it's just crazy how, the adrenaline that goes on there. But yeah, I ended up eating that tag. And that sucked, but still for me, it's fun to even like, I had 5 days and I had one opportunity to put a stock on. And I think the odds are like for every 10 stocks that you put on, you might get one shot on these mule deer. I think there's like somebody did a statistic on it. I don't know. I'm probably speaking on an ass, but
no, I mean, that's one thing I've done a lot of. And, I would say that's probably not too far from, I would say that statistics probably pretty close to the thing is if you get a stock a day, right? A good stock a day, that I would consider that hunt a success because in 7 days, you're probably going to kill one. If you've got your head out of your ass, generally, you've got a good chance at killing one. So, that 1 out of 10 is probably not too far often. It also depends on how smart the deer are, what kind of terrain you're in. Like if it's, super stockable or bow hunting, and you got a solid wind, I'd say it's 1 in 5. You got a swirly wind or the deer are pretty smart. Yeah, you're definitely getting closer to one out of 10. So.
Yeah, I mean, bow hunting success rate is like 10% if you're lucky. So, I mean, that's just unless you're Corey Jacobson, it's just or you. I mean, you're willing to shoot far though, and I'm just not willing to send one that far because I don't trust myself enough. But man, I really wanted to shoot through that hole. I wanted to take that shot, and I was pissed that I didn't. Whenever they left, Levi's filming me, and I'm fucking throwing a bitch fit the whole time. I'm like, I can't believe I fucking didn't trust myself. I should have done it. And then we went up there and looked. I was like, hey, you were right, bud. I would have hit this thing for sure.
Yeah,
Levi's. I mean, it was like the size of my pinky, this branch, and it's right in the middle. So that's where I would have been aiming.
Yeah, you do.
And my arrow would have hit that.
You never want to argue with Levi's eyes. That dude's got eyes like a hawk.
Oh, unbelievable, man. He sees everything. And then we went straight into the elk season, which I was hunting a really good unit. And we were on the elk. We were on the elk. It took us 2 days to get on elk though, because they just weren't at that like 9,000 to 10,000 foot because it was still too warm. I just wasn't seeing them there. So I was like, well, I'm going to go and we're just going to hike until we find them. So we started hiking, dude, and we did 4,200 feet vertical and 16 miles. And I finally found them. And I found a fuck ton of them. And I was like, well, now I got to, but they wouldn't play the game. They wouldn't play. Like they all had their cows, and the satellite bulls were just kind of like, they weren't really interested in playing with any other cows. They just were kind of hanging around the herds. And I found like 3 or 4 different good herds. And the biggest bull I was chasing up there was probably a 370, 380. I mean, he was fucking huge. His bases looked like I couldn't get my hands around him. Probably he was so big. So, put him to bed and went back the next morning. I found an easier way to get up there, and I went back the next morning and had 2 opportunities 2 chances. I thought I was going to have him killed because he was fired up enough going to bed that night that I knew in the morning that there's a good chance I could pull this elk close enough to to send an arrow at him. And I had him at 55 yards. He was just in these trees, and he was playing the game, and then that feeling when the wind stops, what's going to happen after that.
Yeah.
His wind stopped, swirled, cows fucking bust. I'm like, no. So but they didn't bust too far because they just got a little bit of a whiff, and they didn't bust too bad. They went like probably half a mile, and I was able to get back in on him again. Same situation. He's playing the game, and he's at like 40 yards, but I just can't see him. I can't see him because it's so thick, and I just need him to step out of that thick shit. And he would have been at 30 yards where he was going to step out, and he never did. The wind just swirled again, and those elk put themselves in positions where they know the wind is going to be in their favor. It's it's going to continue to swirl in there, and that's what he did. He just would not come out of there and show himself. So then I had to leave and go. I had to go up to Laramie for my father-in-law's 70th birthday, and then I was like, shit. And it was right when muzzleloader season was starting. So I was like, this is who knows what this is gonna be like when I come back, because those muzzleloader guys get in there and how they do. So we come back in there, and the elk are just like, you bugle at them and they're fucking gone.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't want to hear shit. They hear a cow call. They're not even talking in there anymore. So I was like, we got to reevaluate. So I go to the other side of the range there and end up getting into the elk over there. I actually went to a Mexican restaurant and met some locals, and they were like, oh, what's up, man? Like, yeah, there's elk here. There's elk there. And it was like, I'm actually kind of hunting by myself if you want to come with me. And I was like, sweet, let's go. So I went with him, and dude, we had a hell of a day that next day. We were in elk all day, running rut fest all day long. But again, we could not pull them off of their cows to get close enough to shoot. We'd get them into like 90 broadside, just standing there. And it's like, I'm not shooting through this shit at 90 yards. I'm just not doing it. And we did that that went on for like 3 or 4 days. One day we finally had a bull that was stalkable. I was able to stalk this bull, and Levi, you know how he gets all excited and starts bum rushing elk. And he I said, hey, I wouldn't step up in there. And he goes and steps up in there and just, I mean, cracks, steps in the loudest spot in the woods probably, and blows them all out. And then I had a bear tag in hand too. And then we're sitting there and I'm like all butthurt about it. And I'm like, man, this sucks. I was like, it's just nothing will go right for us over here. And then I look up and a bear's walking right towards us. And I'm not even thinking about shooting, goes, oh, hey, there's a bear. And he looks up at me and sees me and he fucking freaks out and runs away.
Oh.
I was just like, what is wrong with me? I didn't even think to shoot. I could have shot this. It was a beautiful bear too. It would have been a great kill. This boar, this like cinnamon boar, was walking down right towards us. But anyway,
how close did it get?
He got to like 40 yards.
Oh, close then, yeah.
Close, yeah. I just looked up and was like, oh, hey, there's a bear. I didn't even think to like, hey, let's be quiet and shoot this bear. You know?
Yeah. Well,
but anyways,
bears aren't something that pop out all the time. It's, you know what I mean? It's sometimes you're kind of like, oh, you know what I mean? It's not your first reaction for, you know what, if you're not, I mean, because bear, that's probably the first bear you've seen in the wild like that, I would guess, isn't it?
It was the first bear. I didn't see any bear sign in the area. So I just was like, oh, there's not even any bears in here, you know, because there's a lot of foot traffic in that area. So I just assumed the bears were kind of like, you know, not going to be hanging out in there. But what do you know? This bear was, I think it's because he heard all the cow call, and there was like 3 or 4 hunters in there. So it was like, there was a lot of people in there hunting, but dude, I saw the coolest thing that happened on that whole thing. That day I did that 16 miler for 2 miles, hiking up this mountain. This giant Shire bull moose was following us the whole time, just hanging out like 20 yards, 12 yards sometimes, just hanging out. He just hung out the whole time. He didn't care. He could care less that we were there. He was just like interested. He was just like walking with us. He wasn't acting aggressive at all. He was just kind of walking with us. And I was like, man, this is fucking crazy. I was like, no wonder there's no elk over here.
Yeah, no kidding. Moose.
These moose are chasing them all off. But man, we had another day where I hiked all the way up to 12.5. I mean, I sprinted up this mountain to get on this bull, and he had like, I don't know, probably 30 cows with him. And I got up above him and tried to drop down on him. I had him at 55 yards. But there was a cow that fucking had me. She had me like, I mean, he had one cow behind. You know how they do? They put one cow behind him, and that's like their little alarm system. And that cow just like, she would not take her eyes off me. So I never had an opportunity to stand up and draw. And then finally she just like barked, and it was like a damn stampede running down through there. Blew those ones out, and I was like, well, shit. All right. And then, on the last day of the season, in the last hour, I was able to get on one, and he was actually playing the game, but he wouldn't come close to these willows I was hiding in. He just was hanging out in the middle of this field chasing a cow around. And he'd come over and like bugle at me, and then, you know, kind of run back out there and get her. And finally he came to like 82 yards, and it was like the last probably 30 minutes of light. And I was like, I'm just going to try to send one from my knees here. So I sent one at 82 yards, and I would 4 inches to the right, and it would have stuck him right in the heart. But I hit him 4 inches left, and it stuck him in that shoulder bone, like in that breastplate shoulder bone. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
And he broke the arrow off and acted like nothing happened.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't sure what it had, like if I hit him good or not, because I was like, oh, he's good. I thought I had enough penetration. It was, you know what I mean? Like I just couldn't tell what kind of penetration I had. And while I'm standing, I got another arrow knocked. This other bull walks right up to me like 10 yards. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to shoot him because I just shot at one. And I don't know if he's like dead or not. I just don't want, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And we back out of there to come back the next morning, find the arrow, not a drop of blood. The broadhead barely went into his shoulder. It was a mechanical. And I was like, man, I should have been using a fixed blade, because it would have, you know, I'm pulling 80 pounds at 33-inch draw. I mean, I should be able to, I really do. I think the mechanical just failed me there.
Well, let's talk about that. We were talking about that earlier, and you know, this is important for people to hear because, like, you know, obviously, like, I mean, I've shot both or whatever, but I usually shoot a mechanical, but not everyone has the same experiences. And the biggest thing to shoot what you're most, you know, comfortable with. And, for guys like me that have had good success and don't have horror stories, it's easy to say, oh no, you shoot a mechanical. Well, Derek's draw length, arrow weight, speed is much more deadly than mine. And you've had bad experiences with mechanical. So we were talking about that before we got on the podcast. You're going to a fixed blade.
Yeah, I'm switching to a fixed blade because I just killed that whitetail with one, and I know it was only 12-yard shot, but still the way it just blew through everything, you know. I mean, I've had success with those with like Sever, you know. Yeah. I've had a success with those too. It wasn't a Sever that I shot at that elk with, but it was a different one. But man, I want to see my arrow. My arrow should pass through, right? My arrow should go straight through that elk. Like the first bull I ever shot was 40 yards, and it was with a Sever, and it penetrated perfect. It was like a perfect behind the shoulder shot, and it didn't. I was expecting my arrow to just like blow through him, and it didn't. And that just concerns me, you know. I would rather see an arrow pass through something. And then when you're shooting in, you know, at 82 yards, I didn't even like think to take the wind into account, you know. It was just one of those things where I was like, oh, it's not really windy, but I'm still checking my wind, and the wind is still blowing into my face. So I have to think it's going to blow my arrow. Like, you're at 82 yards, your arrow it's probably going to move 2 or 3 inches, right? You know,
yeah.
So you have to take that into account. And I just was thinking, I'm like, this should be an easy shot. Like, I should kill this bull. And yeah, I just didn't think like my arrow would stop through. I didn't think any bone would stop it. You know, I thought it would go straight through that stuff, and it didn't, man. It just stuck him in the shoulder. He kicked the arrow out, and he just acted like nothing happened. He didn't even bleed. Dude, I checked for blood for hours the next morning, and not a drop of blood, not a drop. And then later that evening, he was out there the day, you know, the season's over. And later that evening, I seen him out there in that field just running around like nothing was wrong.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a good conversation or good thing to bring up, because like for people that are on the, you know, kind of tipping on back and teetering, like, all right, what should I shoot or whatever? I mean, they both work very well. The most important thing is when you're at full draw, whatever the hell is on the end of your arrow is what you're most confident in. And you know, that's the biggest thing. And so, you know, I mean, you know, with all the different, you know, I mean, you could talk to 100 people, 50 are going to tell you one sucks, 50, you know what I mean? And so it's good to hear multiple perspectives, experiences, you know, on this or whatever, because it helps people learn, understand, or maybe give them maybe a little nudge if they were like, you know, the cool guys don't shoot this, or the cool guys do, you know, whatever. It's good to hear.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing. When you you're right. You said it perfect. When I'm at full draw, dude, I want to be confident. I don't want to have any questions in my head. Like, oh, I don't know. Like, yeah. Oh, what if my arrow pushes like a couple inches to the left here, and it's just going to stick him in the shoulder and he's going to be fine. Like, I mean, he acted like he didn't even get hit. Like, he just was like kind of jogged off, and the arrow just like fell out, and I was like, what the hell happened there? Like, I'm so confused right now. Like, I couldn't believe it, you know? So, you know, and the reason why I like shooting the mechanicals that I shoot is because I don't have to tune them. I don't have to tune my bow. But the other thing that I have to remember, and you might tell me if I'm wrong, because to me, I'm just taking physics into it, and I don't know shit about shit when it comes to like nerding out on like arrow length and arrow weight and everything. But with such a long arrow and a heavy arrow, I feel like I need a tip on that arrow to keep it at that downward trajectory. So, because I feel like when I'm shooting 100 grains, I feel like my arrow rises a little bit. Like, I feel, you know what I mean? Like, instead of tipping down, I feel like it tips up.
No, I got you. I mean, I don't know about that, but certainly a heavier point weight is not going to hurt you. I will say that. So, I mean, I would just go along with what you think is going on in your brain, because if that makes you confident, I'm going to agree with you. Yep, that's what's happening, because more point weight is never bad, right? Like, when I say that to a certain degree, like if you go too crazy, it starts to kind of have negative, you know, returns. But no, I mean, I personally, I mean, I'm not a fan of like lighter, you know, setups up front. And I'm not a fan of like extreme setups, that happy medium that, 150 to 200 up front, it to me is like with components, right? That's where you want to be at. And in the case of like with what you've got going on, the argument can be made because your arrow's so damn long that, to me anyway, the longer the arrow, the less consistent it's going to be because it's just longer. So it's got more to it to spin badly, meaning, not be as consistent as a short arrow. So when you have that weight up front, it will help bucking the wind. It will help a lot of different things. So, I mean, I think you were smart to go to a heavier point.
Yeah. And you're right, man. Cause I that's what I felt. I was like, man, my fucking arrows are so inconsistent out to like those 65 to 75, 80, like 65 to 100. It's just that it was inconsistent, and I'm a pretty good fucking shot. Like I practice shooting my bow a lot, and for different angles and doing all this other stuff and getting out there on a windy day and sending arrows. And I just noticed that like when I get out past a certain distance, man, like my arrows are very inconsistent. And I think it's because my tips aren't heavy enough.
Yeah, and
I think that's what I didn't even like read into any of that. I didn't do any research on that. It was just me like putting two and two together. And a friend of mine was like, "Hey, you should try these." And I was like, "Okay." And I put them on. I put a 125 on there. I was like, "Oh, this thing freaking smacks." And then I put the 150 on there, and it has bleeders. And at 40 yards, it's blowing through my block target and into the tree, like blowing through it. Like you'd have thought I shot a crossbow into it. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm taking these when I go on this whitetail hunt and seeing what it does. And I didn't have to tune for it or anything because, it wasn't dropping at all at 40 yards. But, most people aren't pulling 80 pounds. A lot of people are pulling like 65, 70 pounds. But still, I just don't. I'd pull 100 pounds if I could. If they made them, they just won't make them like that for me.
Yeah, and I mean, you're not only pulling 80 pounds, you're doing it at 2-inch draw length?
33 and a half.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, you should really be blowing through everything with any broadhead. So definitely, I mean, going to the fixed is like, I mean, I get it, I guess is what I'm saying. Because if you were shooting 65 pounds at 28-inch draw and you told me that same story, I'd be like, it happens. But when you told me the stories that you told me, it is kind of crazy because like you should be blowing through pretty much everything but the shoulder knuckle. That's about the only thing you won't make it through. And you'd probably still crack it, or you should, but you're not going to blow. Everything else you should pretty much zip right through with that.
Yeah, it should go right through just about anything, I mean, I came in the speed that it's moving at, at 300 feet per second, 290 to 300 feet per second. Like it shouldn't be an issue. But, here's the other thing, Aaron, that the mistake that I was making. I wasn't checking my my sight after like I had done like a long hike. And like bumping my bow around, or like it was in my truck and we went up a bumpy ass road, and then, stuff like that. Cause we were like, we had to drive into this spot every day and it was a bumpy ass road, and I just didn't check my bow. And I get up there and I just start shooting my bow the one day because we're just kind of chilling, and I start shooting at a target that I pulled out of the back of my truck, and I'm shooting like 8 inches to the right. And I'm like, what the hell? And I look at my sight, and my sight has been, it shook, how like those bolts and everything kind of shake loose. And that's what had happened. A bolt had shook loose and my sight was moved over to the left. So I was like, okay. Yeah. So I said one more thing. That's just one of those things where you have to make sure you got to check your equipment. Yeah. Because, you have to trust your equipment, and it's just the way it goes. So I'm switching sights this year too. Because that happened twice where I was like, dude, my sight it's not on. Like I could just tell by eyeballing it right now that it's shook loose again. So it didn't matter how tight I made it, it just would shake loose. And I don't want to have to worry about that when I'm out there at full draw on an animal.
Yeah. And I mean, everything you said, I agree 100% with. And especially when you're in really rough terrain or you're strapping your bow to your pack a lot. I mean, there's a lot going on. And so, yeah. And I haven't had that happen too many times, but it happens. And I mean, the thing is, it seems like it happens at the worst time, and the thing is when you make the shot, right, you really don't know like if something's off, you don't know until you get back and you're able to confirm like what the hell happened, right? Meaning going back and shooting at a block or a bag or whatever target. And so then if you're still in the woods, your confidence is fucked because you're like, well, was that me? And generally you're going to blame yourself and maybe not the equipment, where sometimes it's 100% the equipment, but then you're kind of rattled. You're wondering what the hell went on, and nothing good comes out of any of that.
No, it fucks with your confidence. And that's like a bow hunter's confidence has to be so high. You know what I mean? That's why you have to be confident. When you draw your bow back, you can't be like, oh, well, I hope this goes well. It's like, no, that's irresponsible. Like when you fucking pull your bow back and you fucking put that dot on those vitals, you better be fucking sure that you're going to be able to kill that animal. It shouldn't be like, oh, well, I hope I hit him. No, you better fucking be sure that you're going to kill him, because that's the ethical thing to do. And, these animals are fucking, especially with elk, man. Like if you hit an elk bad, they're going to live. So now you've just made us all you did was fucking wound him, and he's just going to he might get sick. It might take him a month to die if he gets sick, it's stuff like that. Just, you have to be responsible, and equipment is the last fucking thing I want to worry about. So, I'm actually going to switch over to that HHA.
Yeah. And that's what I've got on my bow now. I've got another one coming. I'm going to try out, Dialed came out with a new version. I'm gonna screw around with that, and for me right now, like the two most durable are HHA and Spot Hog. Probably Spot Hog being number one, HHA two. I would say that option archery stuff's pretty dang durable. The first Dialed, I didn't like that much. I didn't like the vertical pins. The rest of it I did like, and so the thing, like, I like to tinker, but man, the durability, I guess, is what that is. I mean, obviously, I've got to be able to see the pins, but I mean, durability is huge for me because, I mean, you saw what I am going through up there, and, with flights and boats and planes and shit and brush, I mean, you just don't want to have to worry about something being off.
No, when you can't just you can't waste arrows, when you're out there in the field, you just can't waste them.
Yep.
So I can't just be fucking shooting arrows. I'm obviously not going to carry a target in my pack, so I can't just be fucking firing arrows off into the tree.
Yeah. Checking if you're on. Yeah, no, dude. I've had to do that before, not into a tree, but I've definitely been like, my confidence has been shaken enough where I'm like, I got to find like a dirt, mossy side hill and shoot this bow and make sure the damn thing's on, because I'm so rattled. So yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has their little things that they do, but for me, it's all about, I hate doing that, like making excuses, like, oh, my fucking sight did this or that, and it's like, man, I've caught myself, 2 or 3 times in the last couple of years where I'm like, man, my sight was off, and I'm like, well, maybe it's time for a new sight, because that's not fucking cool, and I don't want to have to deal with that. I don't have to worry about that. And, like I said before, I want to be confident when I pull my fucking bow back. And, now that we're on the Born Primitive podcast, we should talk about gear, because, dude, those Frontier pants, the ones I wore, those same pants that I wore in BC, I wore the same pair of pants all of September. Never had to, I don't even know if I washed them.
Yeah.
Because you just don't need to.
Yeah, the 2.0, which is what you have, we've definitely had, we had to redo some things from the 1.0 to the 2. And yeah, I mean, I'm wearing 2 sets, the prototypes. I'm wearing the prototype Frontier and the prototype Tactical. And that, I mean, this morning I had, I'm agreeing with you. Like, I wore the same pants for almost the whole damn season, like you, switching back and forth. And I was very happy with what that 2.0 and the Tactical. They were very surprising. The changes we made did as good as they did. So yeah, I was excited.
Super quiet.
Yeah. For what they are.
The first ones were not quiet.
Yeah.
The first ones were not quiet, but these ones are, phenomenal. And then what's that quarter zip top? Dude, that thing.
Yeah. There's a
that
ridgeline quiver. That quiver fleece, which is my favorite, is definitely one of the, more sought after, that's one of the more ordered. I mean, the Frontier pants and the quiver fleece are definitely our best sellers. And, that quiver fleece, it's obviously, it's good that it's a, it's a grid fleece and everything, but the fit is another one that's, it fits well. And that's a huge part of it as well.
And you know what I love about, my favorite part about it is the sleeves. When you roll the sleeves up and push them back down, they're not all stretched out.
Yep.
Like you can roll them up and, and then whenever it's like, oh, okay, I'm kind of chilling now, I can put them back down. Cause you have to regulate your body temperature when you're out there, but fuck, you zip that front down and then you roll your sleeves up like you're fine, and then it keeps you nice and warm whenever you stop. And I don't know, man, I'm super impressed. And I'm excited for this Bottomlands print to come out. I know you don't really care about camo or think you need it, but I'm fucking 6'6", 300 pounds. So when I'm in a tree, I need some fucking camo. All right.
No, that's what I have said though. I have said in a tree stand, camo is definitely more important than when you're out, spot and stock ground hunting for me, or, in my opinion, or breaking yourself up in one way or another. But no, that Bottomland, I mean, the I guess calling for whatever you want to call it, the demand for Bottomland was pretty amazing. We obviously on the tactical side, they have multicam and, Woodland, they got some other stuff, but yeah, the Bottomland is something that, it worked out. We were able to do it, and there'll be limited runs of it, but definitely, we're going to see how it goes. We're excited.
Yeah. I'm actually going to, I talked to Bear and they're going to try to get me some of that stuff for the spring, so that I can test it out on turkeys. And that's like, to me, if I have that sun shirt, then I think they're going to do the quarter zip fleece.
Yep.
So if I have that quarter zip fleece and a, in the Frontier pant, that should be good enough. Well, cause turkeys, you would go ahead and go out there and try to kill a turkey in a solid. Go ahead and try.
Yeah. You can shoot dumb ones. Yeah. No, turkeys see color. It's a bitch.
Yeah, they see everything. You fucking see you blink.
Yep. Yeah, turkeys are pretty crafty.
See you blink, man.
I've gotten lucky and shot a few turkeys on the ground, but it's usually one of those things where I know they're coming and, not like stalking on them and shot, and it's more of an ambush or whatever. Because when something sees color, it's pretty difficult to kill them, or can be, especially trying to stalk. It's funny with turkeys, like, Amy was, she had a turkey tag. She was in the tree stand, and, she tried to draw on a turkey and was like, I can't believe how well. Yeah. And I'm like, well, yeah, birds try to eat them. And she's like, what? And I'm like, those things look up more than down. I'm like, they're used to owls trying to kill them. And, I was like, shooting a turkey out of a tree stand's a pain in the ass. It's not as easy as people would think.
Especially with a bow. Killing a turkey, for me, every time I've tried to kill a turkey with a bow, I've got busted when I'm trying to draw. Every time. So I just said, you know what? Fuck it. They're going to get shot in the head with a shotgun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a pain in the butt.
As much as I love bow hunting, I love turkey hunting. And you know what I do? I do think that this Bottomlands move, you're going to pull all those southern bow hunters and southern turkey hunters. They're going to start buying this shit because they've been dying for like a good product that puts that Bottomland on it. It's been decades. They've been dying for it, and it's got a cult following. So, you put Bottomlands on a cup, they'll buy it. So, I think it's going to be big for the brand, and I think it's going to, open up that door to the eastern and southern whitetail game too.
Yeah, I hope so. Things are going good. Obviously like things like that where we're, expanding and everything. It's good. I'm excited. And, some of the stuff too, like with camo, when we have meetings, they're like, that's one of the first things they're like, Aaron, I know you don't worry about camo. I'm like, no, I don't. That doesn't mean we don't have to do it. I just don't worry about it as much. But part of that too, it's not the hunting side of it. Part of why I wanted to do solids first was just so people could use it for more than just hunting, because shit's expensive. Right, is using it, be able to go, hunting or shoot 3Ds or go whatever, when just go to the store. And so, that's why I kind of had focused on solids first more than a camo pattern. But obviously now, now we're doing more, working on the camo stuff.
And I think it's really smart to use an existing pattern than to try to create your own, because that just doesn't work. It's hard to convince people. People are, if somebody really truly believes that camouflage is like the most important part, then they're not going to just try some new shit, right? They're just not going to do it. Yeah. So you're trying to bring a new customer. They're going to be like, well, I'm not trying this new pattern. But you know what I will do is I'll try this fucking awesome pattern that, you know,
Yeah, it's been around forever.
I've been wearing
yeah.
since I was a kid, and it's been around forever. You know, I'll try that. I'll try this, but you know, it's on gear that guys wear out west. I mean, hell yeah, let's do it. So, you know, I'm excited for it, man. I think it's going to be phenomenal. It's a good brand. I'm glad, you know, I'm glad you made the move to come over there, because, you know, I think that, you know, you bring a ton to the brand. You know, you grew Kafar out of what it was, and, you know, I think Born Prim is just going to take off even bigger than it already has.
Yeah, it's definitely on a rocket ship. I'm excited, and the crew over there is really good people, real fun to work with. You know, like Bear, which I don't talk to Bear that much just because of the position he's in, meaning he's busy as shit. But like, you know, Bruno and Kurt are both just amazing humans, and you know, they definitely have the mentality that's easy for me to get along with. You know, just their, you know, former, I think 40 years is how long Bruno was in either you know, the Rangers or an ODA team, or, you know, he flew helicopters forever. He's just an amazing, and Kurt, I can't really go into what Kurt did, but Kurt's quite an amazing individual as well. So it's just fun to work with him.
Yeah, awesome group of guys. You know, I thought it was really cool what they were doing for the Veterans Day stuff. You know, they were 100% of the money they made of sales was going to pay off medical debt for veterans. I mean, $5 million was their goal. That's fucking crazy. There's no other company doing that.
Yeah, 5 million. So it was all profits went to, well, they'd already put 2.5 million into it, so they, you know, was going to the next 2.5 million, and yeah, that did really well. And I mean, you got to hand it to Bear and the crew over there. They're very good, you know, to veterans and the, you know, the outdoor community. That gets kind of, you know, overshadowed when you put $5 million into, you know, veterans medical bills, but he does quite a bit for the outdoor community as well, which is good. So,
oh yeah, he does. Yeah, it's an awesome brand, and, you know, it's just going to keep growing because guys are dying for a brand that's just, you know, America first. And you know how it is, man. There's a lot of companies out here that are owned by, you know, it's like a group owns them, and that group is actually donating money to anti-hunting organizations. You know, there's a lot of companies out here doing that. We're not going to name them, but, you know, there's a lot of companies out here doing that, and I don't believe in that.
Yeah, and I mean, the cool thing, like, we're getting a berry compliant line, so a Made in America line, and then we're also working on bringing everything, you know, because we have some stuff made over in China, from China to at least South America, that will be sewn with all American made material. And so we're doing our best to, you know, to and still keep obviously the quality high, and the materials. All the materials we can't get from the US, they just don't make them here, but we're doing everything we can to have an American made line. We're doing everything we can to get everything out of China. And again, I got to hand it to the crew. I mean, that's, you know, they're doing their best, and little by little it's happening. So that's pretty damn awesome.
Well, yeah, I think the tariffs that are going to get put on China are going to really help American manufacturing. So I'm excited for the future, man. I'm excited to, you know, I love working with the brand. You know, I'm not paid by them or anything. I just love the brand, so I use it. And, it's the shit that I like to wear. So
it's definitely one of those things. Like, you know, you spend, you know, you make relationships, you get to know people, you make friends, you know, like, over time. And so, you know, obviously, like, with everything going on, you know, now, and the different relationships I've made, and it's a good, I'm in a good place. You know, for the most part, like, I'm in a good place, obviously, with the direction everything is going. And I can't thank them enough for, you know, for opening their arms to me.
Well, I mean, you have a reputation in the outdoor when it comes to the outdoors. So in the hunting community, you know, you've built a reputation on being honest and giving an honest opinion of gear, and you use the gear before you give an opinion on it. And, you know, I think that goes a long way. You know, you helped build a brand into the, you know, one of the best pack companies there are. And, you know, unfortunately, without your face on it, I don't think that they're not going to be the company that they once were with you. So, you know, I think you bring a ton of value to any company that brings you on, not just because of what you say and what you do and the people that will use the things that you say, but I think your experience this is what you do. You know what I mean? You're not like, it's not part-time for you. This is what you do. You spend your time in the backcountry. So having gear that you can trust, and if you say it's good, people know that they can buy that and know that they're not going to get out there and their pants are going to rip, or that their pack is going to fucking come apart, and you know they're gonna be shit out of luck, and they're 20 miles from a truck. You know, so you know, good on you, man, and I'm happy for you and excited for the future.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And man, we're hitting an hour, so I mean, I thank you for saying all that, but also I don't want to take up any more of your time. It's been a good podcast, but dude, I can't thank you enough, obviously, for, you know, number one, the friendship. You know, you've always been behind me, which I really appreciate, and then obviously the support and everything else. And you're just a good all around fucking dude, which is hard to find anymore. So thank you.
No, I appreciate you, man. Same way. I told you after that hunt, I said, we're brothers now, so I don't know if you wanted a big little brother, but you got one.
I know. I can't remember. There was something I was like, I didn't want to bug you. And you were like, dude, I am going to fucking choke slam you. You're not bugging me. So
yeah, just fucking call me. Be persistent. Like if I don't answer right away or if it doesn't happen, you just fucking tell me and I'll fucking do it. Because you do that for me. So anything you need, I got you, bro.
Oh man, I appreciate. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and again, thank you, Derek. And definitely check out Derek on Instagram. He's always got crazy shit going on. Check out his podcast, Wolfe Untamed, as well as the YouTube channel. He's always doing something crazy.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, take it easy.